Hey guys! So for today's project, I thought we could do something that is a little bit related to current events. We are going to be making a plague doctor's mask. For those of you that don't know, back whenever the bubonic plague was going on in Europe, the doctors wore masks that looked similar to this. They had these crazy long beaks that looked like bird beaks. And the reason for these beaks is down here in the bottom, they would actually fill those up with like herbs and flowers and things to keep bad smells out, because they believed that the plague was caused by bad air, and this was like a filtration system so that the way they weren't breathing in all the bad air. However, we now know that's not how that worked, but that's what they thought at the time. So these long beaks, they weren't for decoration, they actually had a purpose. So we are going to make a mask like this that looks very similar to a plague doctor's mask. On the website, I will also include a link to the website where I found this project at. And it also has links to a more difficult version, and I think it had an easier version as well if you are interested in that. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. For this project, you will need tape or staples. I don't have a stapler here at my house, so I just use tape. You'll need a toilet paper roll. You will need two pieces of paper. I used black paper on mine just because whenever you think of a plague doctor, you think of black. You'll need a pencil, and you will need scissors. So, to get started, you're going to take one piece of paper, and we are going to fold it in half. We are going to start by making this beak. And honestly, this is the trickiest part of the whole thing. So you're going to fold it in half like this. You're going to have this folded side, like closest to you. And starting up here, we are going to draw a nice curved shape that goes from one corner down to the other. So again, make sure it's on that fold. And then cut it out. So like I said, they filled these beaks up with flowers and herbs and things because they really did think that the bad smells are what spread the plague. And the doctors, obviously, they weren't trying to catch the plague. They also, they used like these wands or like canes whenever they were with the sick patient, so that way they could point at things and give instructions without having to touch them, because they didn't want to touch those sick people. All right, so now you're gonna have this part cut out. Take your tape or your scissors and just tape this open flap area together. I'm not sure how well you can see it on the video, but I have tape going all the way down. The more tape or staples that you use will probably be a little bit better. If you don't use a whole lot, it'll probably give like really big like openings. Kind of think about like somebody that's wearing a button-up shirt that is way too small for them. The spots in between the buttons are like gaping open. We don't want that. So the more tape that you use, the better it'll be. Nice and secure. Alrighty. So now you should be able to stick your hand in it and it doesn't come out. So see right there, that part's kind of gapy. I'll probably go back and just put one more piece of tape right there to get rid of that. There we go. All right. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to pinch it. So this part's the tricky part. And whenever I was like reading the directions, whenever I found this online, I don't understand what the directions were trying to say. If you're reading the directions and that makes more sense for you, good. Go for it. Maybe tell me what the heck it meant, because I don't know. What I ended up doing, though, is I took this part and I pinched it down like this. And then I put like a little dent there. I did one on this side as well. So it looks like that. Then you want this crease right here to extend all the way from here down to the bottom. Easiest way to do that is to kind of curl the paper up and just kind of pinch along it. And it'll naturally kind of go down to that curve. So it should look like that. And you'll do that on both sides. So again, you kind of just bend your paper up, just kind of pinch it along, and it will naturally go down to this pointy part. And then I took this part and just kind of ran my finger along it to point it upwards. So now we have like this nice looking toucan beak. If you want, you can also take a staple or a piece of tape. And I actually taped down just these pinched sides. I didn't do this one all the way across. I just did it here and here just to help keep that all together. All right, so there is our beak for our plague mask. Next thing we are going to do is we are going to move on to, the actual face covering. So same thing, you're going to take a piece of paper. We are going to fold it in half. And then we are almost going to make like a heart shape on it. The only thing is we are not going to have the bottom point. We're not going to have the bottom point come over here. We're going to leave it pretty wide open like that. And again, make sure it's on the fold. If it's not on the fold, you're going to have two separate pieces of paper, and we don't want that. So these masks, they were actually tucked into really long coats. And these coats were actually coated in wax, which helped against the bubonic plague from spreading because the fleas weren't able to nest on people. That's how they believed that the disease was spreading the most, was through fleas. They didn't know that though. But the waxiness on their coats kept the fleas from nesting on them, which kept the doctors from getting the plague. Fun fact. Alright, so when you open it up, looks like this. Set that aside. Now you're going to take your toilet paper roll. If you want to, you can flatten it like this to make it a little bit easier to cut. I didn't flatten that one. It was a little tricky, but it wasn't too hard. And you are going to cut it into like thirds. So you want about 3 evenly sized pieces. There's one. If you want to measure it and get real fancy, go for it. I just kind of eyeball it most of the time. Now the parts where you see the like roll wrap around itself, those parts are obviously harder to cut through. It's 2 layers of cardboard, so be careful when you're doing that. Alright, you only need 2 of these, so get rid of the other one. Now we have these 2 eyes. These are for the goggles. These goggles in the glasses, or in the masks, they were actually made of crystal. And again, it was sealed nice and tight, so that way they weren't getting all the germs in them. Next thing you're going to do is you are going to take your roll and you're going to cut little slits in this. So it's going to look, the back of it looks like this. And this just helps keep these from popping out. I don't know if I can put this back up here. Cool. So this is when having one hand comes in handy, because I can just kind of stick it on there. I guess you guys could probably easily just hold it, but this works as well. I don't often get to brag about having one hand. It's usually just this and washing cups. Makes washing cups pretty easy. Alright, so you're going to cut all the way around. Again, on the parts where you're cutting through 2 layers, it is trickier. Be careful. Don't accidentally cut yourselves, please. Also, unlike today where we're telling everybody to wear masks if they go outside, these plague masks, they were only used for doctors. The doctors were the ones that had to go around and deal with all the sick and dying people. The doctors are the only ones that had access to these masks. I doubt people could probably afford to get a mask like this, and so they just didn't get one. The doctors also, to help cure people, they did bloodletting, and they used leeches to like suck the bad stuff out of the sick people. Some doctors actually still do use leeches, usually not here in America. But in some countries, doctors actually still believe in using leeches. They also used toads and spiders. And the toads and spiders, I'm not sure how, but they believed that those helped get rid of the bad smells that caused the spread of the disease. So, yeah, toads, spiders, and leeches. You find all those things in your backyard, probably. At least if you have a pond. Alright, so we have these two things. Just kind of take it, swoop out the edges. Again, where there's the two layers, it's a little bit harder. Once you kind of get it going, you can kind of push it down against the table. If you accidentally cut through it, no big deal. Just use a piece of tape and fix it. I cut through both of those. It happens. Alrighty. So now we have our two eye holes for our goggles. I'm going to go back to this paper. I'm going to fold it back in half. And then I'm going to take one of these. I'm going to put it somewhere around here and trace it. Not the best tracing job, but now I know where my eyes need to go. I'm going to keep the paper folded. I'm going to kind of fold it in half through this eyeball. Just kind of. And then I'm going to cut this part. This way, both of my eyes look the same, and they're like in roughly the same spot. So then whenever I open it all the way back up, it looks like this, and I can see through it. Alrighty. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to take these little eye holes. We're going to pop them through the holes we just cut out. If you want to try to secure this a little bit more, you might want to like tape this down. I didn't tape that one, and they're just kind of sticking in there, so up to you. You do you. Whatever tickles your fancy. Alright. So now we have the eye holes, and it looks like this. The last thing we need to do is we need to attach our beak. This part was a little bit tricky. I actually made the face of my mask a little bit too wide, so I'm going to trim it. I'm going to put a little dash there and a little dash there, showing where I need to cut mine. Looks like I was on the right track with my first one. If you want, you could actually fold it back in half again. You'd have to take your eyes out. I'm not going to do that. But if you wanted to, you could. And then you would make sure that both sides like actually look the same. Because my sides are going to be a little bit wonky now. Alright. Now I can line these back up. Alright, and now attaching the beak is a little bit tricky because you do want it to kind of stick up on its own. You don't want it to just like hang down like this. You're not an elephant. This isn't an elephant trunk. It's a bird beak. They should look up a little bit. So, to do this, I'm going to take a piece of tape. I'm going to apply it right there. So on the back side of my mask, sticky side up. I'm going to take my beak. I'm going to hold it up against the edge of the paper. And then I'm going to fold this piece of tape up to it. Then do the same thing on the other side. Take a piece of tape. And I'm only doing this at the corners. I'm not doing this all the way across. Alright. So now it's still hanging down a little bit, but I have it done on both sides. All I need to do now is add one more up at the top. You might end up adding two. I think on this one I actually added two. So this one, it's going to go down and then stick right there. Now because this isn't construction paper, it actually might not hold its shape as easily. So it might collapse on itself a little bit. Yeah. Use construction paper to have it be a little bit more sturdy. I think that's probably why this one's kind of falling down a little bit, because I'm not using the construction paper. But there we go. There is your very own Plague Doctor mask. And like I said, on the website I will add, I'll actually add a video that talks about the bubonic plague a little bit more. I'll add the website where I got the idea for this project, and on that I think it does have a couple other ways to make it. You could also do something with paper mache. If you so choose to do that, you could try to make a paper mache mask that you can really wear. If you really do want to wear this, you can easily just add like 2 paper strips. If you have elastic, you could add elastic, and you could actually wear it too. So I think that's going to be it for today, guys. Make sure that if you're making these projects, you're sending me pictures. Don't forget, you don't have to make the ones that I'm showing you. As long as you're making art and you're sending it to me, that's all I really need from you. I hope you guys are all doing really well. I hope you guys got my postcards. And yeah, that's going to be it for today. I'll see you guys next time.